make them inside. Hoping this-
Captain drawn.
Yeah, well, I don't know what it was, but hoping it'll help.
Sound is good, camera's on. All right. Time is now 6 o'clock, so I'll bring to order this meeting of the White House City Council for today, April 13th, 2021. Ms. Hargis, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. James Wansley,
Here.
Zach Briscoe,
Here.
Ginger Cardwell,
Here.
Paul Hickey,
Here.
Michael Lowe,
Here.
and Dick Jackson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Will you please stand if you're able and join me in a word of prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, we gather here today as members of the community that we hold dear. We ask for your wisdom as we reflect on the history of our city, for patience and insight as we consider the matters at hand, and for courage and stewardship as we plan for the future of the city of White House. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, please be seated. This takes us to item D, presentations. Are there any presentations to be made at this time? No? All right. On to item E, community interest. I'll read this section. This section of the agenda shall allow any member of the city council, the mayor, or the city manager the opportunity to discuss minor, non-actionable items such as recognitions, scheduling, and upcoming civic events that are not listed on this agenda and which require no action by the council. We have some community interest items. Would you like to read through those, please, Ms. Black? What do we have here?
Mayor and Council, I believe on April 14th, the Education Foundation is doing their Ask-a-thon. And then also on April 27th for East Texas Giving Day, I've noticed they've put some stuff. The Education Foundation is asking for some donations and contributions for those that would like to participate. On May 1st, the Farmers Market will have their opening day out here in the parking lot at City Hall. And then May 28th, White House ISD will hold their graduation ceremony at the stadium beginning at 8:30 p.m. And I have heard that they plan to do open seating for that at that event, so it will not be limited in attendance this year.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone have anything to add in the area of community interest? All right, that takes us to section F, public forum. Did we have anybody sign up for public forum?
No, sir.
Okay. That takes us to item G, the consent agenda. Council, you have the consent agenda. I believe the only thing on there is the approval of the minutes from the previous council meeting.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further conversation? No? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, on to item H, other action items, ordinances, resolutions, public hearings. Item number 1 is discuss and consider ordinance 21-0413-01, amending ordinance 10-1019-01 regarding parking. You have some proposed language in your packet, so let's take a look at that. All right, any information to add to this, Mrs. Black?
Mayor and Council, this is a result of some complaints that we have received at the staff level regarding truck parking or commercial parking on private property that is not zoned for such businesses. And so Susan has prepared this ordinance based on another city's ordinance to hopefully address that issue. There was one minor correction in one of the whereases, the first whereas in the ordinance, whereas the city council of the city of White House finds that it is in the best interest. So that will be corrected in the official copy, but wanted it noted for those of you that reviewed your packet ahead of time. We corrected that issue.
And if I may, at the end, the passed and approved by, I had the incorrect date there. I changed that date as well. And just above in section 8, there was a typo. It should be in such cases. That has all been corrected.
So I did have a question on section 5, where it states that, it shall be unlawful for any owner or person in control of the commercial vehicle or any owner of the person in control of the property described herein to leave, park, or stand a commercial vehicle or permit the leaving, parking, or standing of a commercial vehicle upon property within the area zone non-residential. So I guess my question is, historically, I know there are some residents that this is their profession and they park the cab of the truck in their own driveway. So as I'm reading this, does this prevent them from doing so? It appears so, but
I think section 4 might, more than section 5.
maybe I said the wrong section.
That one targets residential.
I'm sorry, residential, yes, I apologize, yeah, residential, section 4.
So as it is drafted, yes, that would prevent that.
Okay. So, I think there would be some concerns for those if that's their main source of income. So, I don't know, that's just something that stuck out to me.
Yeah, that stuck out to me as well.
I guess, and I see what you were saying, what I guess separated for me was these are larger vehicles than the guy that has guy or gal that has a 1-ton plumbing vehicle is still allowed to park in a residential neighborhood. It's the way it's worded to me with the greater than 1 ton, the intent of it being a tractor trailer or tractor truck would be the larger ones, and those really don't fit well in neighborhoods to begin with.
Well, there's one specifically in my neighborhood, and I know of a couple other I've seen that are right around, right
They get
behind
it,
us
they
that
get,
they
it's
park.
not even on their driveway, I mean, they got it up by the house, it's not.
So,
Yeah, there's one right down by you, right? Like
Yeah.
up Hanks.
and there's one on my street
I
that's in
don't
the
know how,
driveway.
I don't know how he backs that thing in there
I
on
don't
that little
either.
road, but he gets it in there. And he's been doing it for a long time.
There used to be one straight across the street from me, but they moved.
You ever hear any complaints about him parking that? Yeah.
So Mayor and Council, if you wanted to continue to allow that, staff would just recommend that you strike section 4.
Okay.
We reviewed that section earlier today to see if there were any issues with just striking that language, and we feel like that would be appropriate if you wanted to continue to allow that use.
We could address it, if that doesn't work, we could address it later if it really got to be a problem, but I can't see
Yeah.
stopping a wage earner from parking his vehicle there unless we actually furnished him a place to park. I agree.
So another thing that struck me is odd, I've talked it out a little bit, but is the way I read this initially was that it wouldn't allow for parking in like commercial low. And I think there's some use cases for some tractor trailers in commercial low. But I think that there is specific language in here that addresses that. Just to make it clear to anybody reading this or listening to this meeting, that this parking ordinance wouldn't impact people where 18-wheelers making deliveries and then parking overnight ready for the next one is not going to impact their business. We didn't want it to have any kind of impact on those businesses. And I believe that specific section, which one was that, Susan?
Section 5C.
5C. It's where the commercial vehicle is parked at a lawfully zoned business establishment, whereas such commercial vehicle is utilized as an integral part of such lawfully zoned businesses. That didn't click with me the first time I read through it.
So are we in a place to enforce this ordinance well? I mean, do we confident even within section 1?
So I believe Chief Robison reviewed it, and he made some edits to the original version, which were incorporated into this, and felt like this was something that we could work towards enforcing. I think our first our first order of business, if this is approved, is to reach out to those property owners or operators if we have their contact information and let them know of the change first, so that, I mean, the goal is compliance, not citations, so, that would be our first order of business, but yeah, I think, I've seen this enforced in some other cities successfully, so I think it's something we could very well tackle.
Okay.
So is this something that we could, like, let's say on 110, just up from White House, Buc-ee's decides to build a thing there, right? And they have some areas where truck drivers can park and rest. And is it something that could be justified through this parking ordinance to allow for such uses? Would that be considered an integral part of their business?
I think it would be an integral part of their business, and it would be lawfully zoned as a use to allow that. So that would be part of the approval of that type of a business. So if you had a large fuel center, yes, they would need to be zoned appropriately to allow fuel centers, and then it would be,
I see.
it would be appropriate.
And this also has language that it talks about that being a part, not just an integral part of their business, but they are a customer of that business. And it has language in that that allows for that as well.
Okay.
As long as they are a customer of that business.
Yeah.
So everything that was modified has been highlighted, is that a true statement?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a citywide ordinance, so I want to give you guys some time with it if you need it. All ordinances are citywide. This is potential, I want to make sure there's no collateral damage done when, so anything you can think of that you want to ask, now's a good time.
Mayor and council, I'll just add, so the impetus and the whole reason why we headed down this path for parking are the complaints specifically related to vacant properties where tractor trailers are parking overnight or for extended periods of time.
Right.
Was really the intent behind it, was to find a reasonable way to regulate that.
I mean, when a truck parks like we have in this situation out here, if I remember my DOT days of training, anything of 1,000 pounds should be placarded. We really don't know what is inside a cargo hold out there. I mean, it could be ammonium nitrate, who knows? So this is good. I think this is a good step forward.
Will there be any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion if someone is so moved.
I'd make a motion, but let me clarify, we've struck section 4, correct?
Yes.
That's correct. That is the section.
I would make a motion to approve the amending ordinance 10-101901 regarding parking, and also, Susan, is that 210413, is that the new ordinance number?
Yes.
Okay. Let me rephrase that. Make a motion to approve ordinance 21-041301, amending ordinance 10-1019-01 regarding parking with the understanding of section 4 struck from the document.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Look at that, we got a connection right there too.
I gotta get used to that.
I know, right? All right, so that takes us to item H2, Return the Bins Committee Update. So we fired off the Return the Bins Committee Update to start an investigation of people's interest and likelihood to participate in returning the bins. And that spun off a committee called Return the Bins. that was volunteered to be head up by Councilman Lowe, and I believe Councilman Briscoe jumped in there too. So would you like to provide an update to that, Councilman Lowe?
I'm gonna pass around some pictures and explain to y'all some general knowledge and oversight of what exactly we're trying to do. What we're trying to do, some of the goals I've identified is to avoid an ordinance. We don't want an ordinance if we don't have to have one. I mean, again, reducing further government oversight. We wanna make White House a more beautiful city than it is. It's a beautiful city, and maybe we can do, as we say in Mississippi, gooder. Make it gooder. Also, avoid sidewalk obstructions for pedestrians and cyclists, which can cause a hazard walking, or I ride my bike on sidewalks around here, and when I have an obstruction like a trash can, I have two choices: to move the trash can, go out in the road, or ride in people's yards. So it's just kind of it's a danger. Community engagement, I live close to a duplex, and the duplex owner's been really very nice, very kind, very open-minded. He's really wanting to work with us, and he's gonna work with us. I mean, he's said that, and a lot of respect for that. Also, we've had Keep White House Beautiful, who's been a good help to us. And Councilman Briscoe has been a good partner in this. He's got experience in this type of thing. Some of the meetings, we've had phone meetings at the early beginnings of this committee. And I know Zach and I have remained in a little contact here and there. And also, again, phone contact with Keep White House Beautiful. We identified a tag which could be affixed to a can, and it's a tag that's used by Republic Industries. I think it would probably work, and it's pretty gentle. It kind of gets the message across, so that would be a great thing. That's on my goals that I've kind of identified, is maybe a tag. Some of the obstacles that we face is we can't go on private properties. I don't know exactly the laws, but I mean, me as a councilman, I can't go up to a trash can on somebody's lawn and attach a tag. That would be infringing on, private property. Now, Republic Industries probably could. I don't know how the law is referenced. I don't know how that would go or not, but that's kind of an obstacle. So that's one of the things. If I understand, Republic personnel could do it, but as far as, citizens of the council or us, we have to be careful about infringing on private property, and we want to be. The needs remaining is identify the containers left out. I mean, where are the problematic areas in town? Sometimes I drive on a Saturday, Sunday, and I don't understand all the ramifications about what days pick up here, what days it's pick up there. I know my day is Friday mornings, but Saturday, Sundays is a kind of a good day to get an overall view of what's going on and any kind of potential, opportunities that we could undertake. And again, another need that is remaining is the manpower. Who's gonna put the tag on the can, who can, and all of that, and so that's really basically, because we don't want an ordinance, but I think if we perhaps take the approach that we identify, problematic areas, and we go and take small little steps, that it may help to rectify the problem, considerably. You're never gonna get perfect. Never gonna be perfect. People go on vacations. Some people don't know their neighbors because perhaps they're brand new in the community. So maybe keep taking little baby steps on this thing, and it'll probably work out.
And I drove a big portion of the city that the trash didn't go on Monday, on Sunday afternoon, and it really wasn't bad. And in 90% of the city, like Councilman Lowe said, it is just a couple areas where You have multifamily residents that are putting all their cans out in one big group, so.
Right.
But
So,
again-
in the instance where you would feel the need to go on a property, because the cans are out by the road, right?
Yeah.
They're on right away.
What's the situation where you would want to put a tag on a can that's on private property? When would that be?
Well, if people are able to identify a constant 24/7 placement of the can or the container, that's when you'd probably say, hey, you know, I just have the feeling that if you do that and approach somebody professionally, that I would say 95, 98% of them would comply and probably help the city out, you know, and just, a lot of them just, you know, just, I think good information would solve the problem in most respects, you know. I would appreciate if I was a homeowner and put my can out. A lot of them don't know. They get busy with life. They're busy with families and working, and I think, just think that would be advantageous.
How long they have to bring it back in after it's picked up?
I don't think we have any regulation on it now.
For some reason, I thought it was 24 hours or something.
The only other thing is, I've checked with, Kilgore's got one, Chandler's got one, I think Jacksonville's got one, and even Lindale has one. Tyler, of course, has one, but again, you know, it may not be as greatly, you know, a problem here as maybe the other towns. But again, I'd rather take a soft approach, honestly, and just continue to take little baby steps. And Councilman Briscoe's been a great partner, and he and Republic has been. I mean, it was really great working with the duplex owner. He was very receptive, very impressed with Republic. They came over, they analyzed the situation, the technical people. So it was all thumbs up, good, you know, and a lot of times these people want to help you. It's just, you just got to take a little time with them, you know, so.
So that's one of the outcomes of the committee, I suppose, is that you found a path forward for those that are facing this problem and want to know how they can get on the other side of it without an ordinance, just
Right.
Right.
working with their neighbors, working with public services. I see. All right, anything else to add?
No, sir.
Council, any questions on the outcome of this committee? All right, thank you, Councilman Lowe, Councilman Briscoe. All right, that takes us to item H3, the legislative session update. All right, it's gonna be fun.
Mayor and council, this is requested at the last council meeting. I'm doing regular webinars with TML to stay up to date on all the legislation. Of the nearly 7,000 bills filed during this legislative session, 30% have some sort of impact on municipalities. And that's pretty standard for legislative sessions, at least of late. So we'll run through a couple of these pretty quickly. House Bill 749 and other related bills would expressly prohibit a political subdivision from spending public funds to hire a lobbyist. And while on the surface, that all sounds like a great idea that we could get behind, small cities like us utilize the services of organizations like TML to keep us up to date on legislation as it moves through the session and then once it's passed, so that we can keep everything legal and do things the way we're supposed to do. One example of that is the cybersecurity training that you're all having to do
Oh, yeah?
currently.
Where do we want this?
Would be a really lesser known bill that we as staff wouldn't have been able to keep up with and probably wouldn't even be aware of if it weren't for the services of organizations like TML. So there are some companion bills to that. All of those are currently pending in committee right now. I sent you all an article from the Texas Tribune, kind of outlining that the state continues to pay lobbyists with taxpayer dollars as well, and so they're kind of, TML is calling it a censorship bill and trying to limit maybe the influence that cities as a collective group can have on the legislative process. So
It
we'll
seems
keep-
like they prevent us from having to hire a full-time lawyer just to keep track of legislation. They do a lot of translation and summarizing and save us a lot of time.
Absolutely. We would have to have a full-time legal staff to keep up with everything. And oddly enough, it doesn't prohibit you from having an attorney on staff that can lobby. It would just prohibit organizations as a whole providing those services to cities. So There's some nuances in all the companion bills that are interesting and different between every version. For obvious reasons, TML is keeping a close eye on this one and providing regular updates, so we'll continue to do that. The attorneys at TML have assured us that if some sort of this legislation were to pass, they will change the way they operate at TML, but they will still continue to function and serve cities, especially smaller cities, with the resources that they are able to provide. Under property tax, House Bill 1869 would state that any tax-supported debt that are not voter approved would be required to be financed through M&O. So that bill, the way it stands right now, would effectively do away with all debt that is not supported by a general obligation bond. Because there would be no reason to issue the debt if it impacted your M&O due to the restrictions that the state legislature has put on your calculations for your property tax rate. It would fundamentally change municipal finance and the way that we operate and are able to do capital projects. Quite frankly, this is one of the scariest bills to me. It's currently left pending in committee, so we will see how far it goes. I do think that we, as municipalities, can expect further attempts to limit our control over our property tax rates. I think Senate Bill 2 that was passed in the last legislative session that limits what you can raise on your M&O side. We expect to see the opposite effect on the INS side because cities are almost incentivized to issue debt for projects because it doesn't impact their tax rate as significantly in the revenue that they're able to raise. Again, this is pending in committee. We'll keep a close eye on this one because it would have grave impacts on small municipalities. There are a couple of bills related to the 2019 Senate Bill 2. One is a very good bill that would clean up some issues related to the tax notices that we had to issue last year. I don't know if you remember, there was some very confusing language that resulted in us having to get on the phone with the head tax attorney with Linebarger last year because of the way we had to publish those notices in cities that have sales tax rates to reduce property tax rates. It throws your tax rate calculations almost into a reverse appearance, and so it looks like you're raising your tax rate well beyond what is the voter approved rate, and that is not the case. So what was meant to be clarifying language only served to confuse not only the public but city staff and everyone involved. So hopefully that legislation will pass so that we can clean some of that up during the budgeting process. Under public safety, there's one bill that I didn't get included in your memo. I just got notice yesterday that it is headed to committee. It's House Bill 1089. It is related to governmental liability. Most significantly, it would state that any employee in basically all public safety fields acting as an employee would be personally liable according to Texas law. So that is headed to committee. We'll keep a close eye on that one, and I'm sure organizations like TMPA and Texas Police Chiefs Association are keeping a close eye on that one as well. Next, we have Senate Bill 23. There was a lot of rhetoric heading into the legislative session about defunding police and the consequences that cities should or could face if they chose to do so. The biggest concern here is that it would have some unintended consequences. For example, in our current budget year, when we were talking about it and we set up our vehicle replacement fund, what shows in our police department from the prior year actually decreased to the current year simply because of fund accounting and the way we moved that out. We're providing more funding for police, but budget-wise, it looks like less just because we changed the way some things are shown. So TML is trying to work with the authors of a couple of these bills to do away with those unintended consequences. I think the legislature as a whole realizes that 99% of municipalities in Texas are not working to defund police, and that smaller cities or cities that aren't growing and would need to cut police forces if their population is shrinking should not be punished as a result. So right now we don't expect any really movement on these without some different language that would provide for some of those circumstances. they're talking about waivers and some of those kind of things that could be filed with the comptroller to get around that. Senate Bill 24 would establish hiring procedures that allow for agencies to have sufficient information to make informed decisions on potential hires. That has been unanimously approved by the Senate. And then House Bill 8 would also require TCOL to establish some rules related to employment records so that jurisdictions could have information on quote-unquote bad officers before they hire them. And there is House Bill 4072, has to do with sales tax sourcing. I think that bill, if anything, would have maybe a positive impact. It has to do with where sales tax is collected based on delivery of the item. It's pretty complex language, but I don't see that it could hurt us just a whole lot. We don't have a lot of sales tax payers here that do a lot of internet sales that would greatly impact the way we collect sales taxes right now. And there is an economic development related bill, House Bill 2404. It's a minor bill that would just require some reporting requirements for Chapter 380 agreements. We're already required to do similar reporting for eminent domain, should we ever use it, so that one wouldn't be too burdensome. On elections, House Bill 782, this is interesting, so it would require home rule cities to have Secretary of State review and approve any ballot language prior to their election, but it also opens up the liability of cities for that language. So the question from TML and other organizations is, if we have to have it approved, why should the liability also increase? So there are some things they're working through on that bill. It was heard in committee on April 7th, and as far as I know, is still in committee. An interesting bill for all of you elected officials, House Bill 2092, which would require partisan affiliation to be listed on the ballot for future municipal elections. I'm gonna skip down to open meetings, House Bill 2683. So as you all know, during disaster declarations, the governor's made some specific orders to allow for video conferencing for meetings related to COVID-19. There have been several bills filed that would hopefully continue that process. I think they've seen that instead of limiting transparency, which was always the fear prior to the pandemic, it actually increases transparency and provides a lot more information to the public that can't necessarily attend a meeting every second and fourth Tuesday at 6 p.m. So there's a big push to allow that to continue. The current draft right now is so burdensome that it would be a disincentive to continue that. So TML is again working with the author of this bill to hopefully get it to a format that they intended. So hopefully we'll see some movement on that. Utilities and environment, House Bill 753. This one is another revenue limiting bill for cities. It would limit the amount that we can charge for a franchise fee on solid waste services, and would do away with franchises or exclusive franchise agreements for commercial and multifamily and all their non-residential uses. So as you all know, after reviewing solid waste rates, we use a lot of commercial rates to help subsidize the residential side so that our homeowners aren't impacted as greatly on residential rates. And TML is hopeful that this one will not pass. There is a huge fiscal cost to cities. Looking at the fiscal note of the bill, the City of Houston anticipates it would cost them $4 million a year, Plano $1 million a year, and it goes on from there. So there's a huge fiscal note when the state legislature is already limiting the revenue cities can generate on the property tax side. To further limit it on something such as solid waste would be incredibly harmful to cities, their ability to generate revenue for necessary services. So hopefully we won't see that one move forward. So that, Mayor and Council, is my.
Do you see them going after the other utilities? I mean, was there a bill that's been talked about, maybe not filed, but if they're doing that with garbage, are they looking at water? Some cities have internet and so forth.
Yeah, Suddenlink.
If there are, it's not gaining any traction. TML hasn't said anything about it. This is the one of probably of greatest concern right now, and that has seen a little bit of movement in committee. The legislature is continuing with committee hearings, so that continues for the next couple of weeks. So any bills that have been filed are subject to get a committee hearing, and we don't really have an idea of what traction they're gonna gain until they have those committee hearings, so. We continue to keep an eye on it. I got an update from TML yesterday with things that were scheduled for committee meetings this week, and that, governmental liability and police officer immunity was the big one.
All right, thank you very much. Very thorough report, lots of conference calls, and dissecting emails went into that, I'm certain.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right, any more questions from council on that one? If not, we'll go down to item H4, Economic Development Corporation, EDC update. Another report. Excited about this one too.
So, Mayor and Council, as you know, the EDC was just formed, I believe, 2018 or so, and it's really just now kind of in its infancy stage and getting to a point to where they have a healthy fund balance and can really start looking at making a difference in the community. But as Susan and I were putting this together, we went back and pulled some permit reports and some CO reports, and I think I was even surprised to see how much got done in the last year in the midst of a pandemic. So I've provided some of that information here. I'll run through it pretty quickly. As a board, the EDC has developed an incentive application. They're reviewing some opportunities for a possible co-working or shared office space location in the city. And we're hosting the Small Business Development Center seminars once a month. So our next one will be tomorrow. So we've got about 5 or 6 people signed up for that, and they attended the first one 2 months ago. So we're seeing some success there.
Where is that posted, the sign up for that?
It's just, anybody will just email me if they're interested, so black@whitehouse.tx.org, and we'll get them registered.
Yes,
Easy, just tell me you wanna show up, and we'll provide you lunch and get you all the information, get you plugged in, so. We listed here the business expansions or let me back up. One other activity that they're looking at doing probably in the next couple of months is a business after hours. Now that COVID restrictions have kind of eased up, we wanna work with the chamber and maybe have the EDC sponsor a business after hours event. I know Republic did one, but I think Republic sponsored right before COVID, and it was a big success, so the EDC will be meeting with them to talk about their interest in that. Business expansions or attractions from 2020 include 2 quick service food or beverage locations, a chiropractor's office, 2 local retail establishments, a large-scale generator repair facility, completion of the $10 million construction project in the oil and gas business, expansion of solid waste office company space, renovation of a banking facility, expansion of a printing company building, addition of a nutrition company, and expansion of a self-storage facility. Business expansions that are currently underway include Berkshire's Grocery Company, White House Vet Clinic, and 2 dental offices. We do have some upcoming commercial projects that include quick service restaurants, a fueling station, and an urgent care facility. The EDC is also working to support some quality of life initiatives. Those include reviewing options to expand broadband connectivity, mainly related to attracting a data center, and then financial support of the city's portion of the NET RMA project to purchase the abandoned railway from south of Hagen Road to Truth. So, like I said, going back through this, I was surprised at how much had gotten done in the short time that I've been here, and that the EDC has been stood up, and I think we're looking forward to doing even more.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Anything else to add, council?
I have one thing. Are they getting everything they need from us? Do they need anything to further advance, opportunities? Because it's like us. We have a huge responsibility, and they have a huge responsibility. I think that we all need goals, and I hope they have goals.
So one of the things I did talk to the president about was some goal setting and related to, now that they have a healthy fund balance, as part of their budgeting process, much like we do for all the other departments, is looking at what programs and projects they really want to take on for the next fiscal year. So at their next meeting, we'll really start diving into that and maybe some deliverables that they'd like to see out of the next fiscal year.
Yeah, and those things, of course, some of them are business related, so they can't be made public record,
Right.
but if we could have visibility to that, anywhere that we could plug in and help, of of course, we're here. All right, that takes us down to item H5, the 2021-22 budget process. It's budget season.
Mayor and Council, Jennifer has worked diligently to get a financial software migration underway. She's done a great job getting us switched over. And it's something that a lot of citizens will never see the efficiency improvements that's gonna bring us. So we've prepared kind of a timeline for the budget calendar. It's probably a little bit later than what you normally see just because of that migration. Jennifer's hoping to kind of finish up the bulk of the financial side of that this week so that we can really start diving in. But so far, our departments have submitted their budget requests to her. And we will be holding departmental budget meetings during this month and really kind of fleshing out any new project or program requests that they have put in. In May, we expect to receive our preliminary taxable values. We'll continue holding departmental budget meetings, and we will start having preliminary discussions related to capital equipment and any personnel requests that they may have. We will also, probably at the second meeting in May, have our first draft budget presentation to the city council. And we will continue those through June, July, and hope to propose a tax rate, maybe continue budget workshops, or even adopt the budget in August and into September. As always, we won't receive our certified values from Smith County Appraisal District until July, so that has a significant impact on the tax rate and the revenue for the general fund. One of the things I think we're most excited to show you is what the new budget reports will look like as a result of the financial migration, and it gives us the opportunity to track changes meeting over meeting. Yes, yay, yay. So we can do kind of 3 rounds at a time and have that provided to you so in a way that you can see what has changed between those reviews. So I know that's been a long requested budget item, so we're very excited about that. And that what is included in your packet is just a carryover from the current fiscal year. So you'll see the 2021-2022 April column is just a carryover from the currently approved budget. We haven't made any changes to that. But I wanted to go ahead and get it to you so that you can start looking at it, familiarizing yourself with how this is gonna look. Let me know if you have any questions about what is currently budgeted so that when we get you that first draft, we can really jump in. And we're not trying to get up to speed on what the reports look like, so. That is all that I have on that, Mayor.
Excellent. I would encourage the council to go ahead and start diving into these. There's a lot of information to digest. Some of the categories, if this is your first time reviewing the budget, makes sense once you know what they are. But they're short, you know, they're not writing a sentence in these categories. And some of them link back to other accounts, and it's just the way that cities have to do budgets, which is a little bit different than how you would budget in your checkbook at home. So if you have any questions, please reach out to Mrs. Black or Jennifer and see what's going on. All right, so that takes us to item H6, COVID-19 update. We have a report here. Anything to add to that report, Mrs. Black?
The only thing I'll add, Mayor and Council, we continue to await guidance from the U.S. Treasury related to the American Rescue Plan. The NLC, the National League of Cities, has indicated that non-urban cities, which is what we are classified as, can expect to receive their first tranche of what is estimated to be our $1.94 million payment within 90 days from the plan approval, which was March 11th. So we're hoping by June 11th, we will have the first half of that $1.94 million. I cannot guarantee you right now what is going to be in the Treasury guidance on how we are able to spend that money. They've provided some broad overview saying that it will not be any more restrictive than the coronavirus relief funds that we received last year. In fact, they've added a couple of categories to it. And so far have indicated that states are not allowed to put additional restrictions on that funding as they did with the coronavirus relief funds. So we will see if that holds true throughout the process. We expect TDM will be the organization locally that will distribute the funds to those non-urbanized areas. So we will await both the guidance from the Treasury and TDM. We have continued to see COVID-19 cases in the area. Our our list is getting smaller and smaller, it seems like every week, and the vaccination opportunities are getting larger and larger for those that are interested, so that's all been positive news.
Excellent. Any questions from council on the update?
No.
All right, that takes us to item H7, where we'll consider future agenda items. Anyone from council have something they'd like to add to the next meeting's agenda? We will continue to review the budget. Are we gonna have that appearing each meeting from now on, or?
We probably, maybe the first meeting in May, we may not have anything for the end of
Okay.
April, but maybe the first meeting in May, but we'll keep you posted.
Okay. Anything to add? All right. That takes us down to item I, executive session. So pursuant to chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the city council reserves the right to convene into executive sessions from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The city council may convene into executive session to discuss any of the following topics: pending or contemplated litigation, or to seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to section 551.071, possible purchase, exchange, lease of value of real estate pursuant to section 551.072, personnel matters pursuant to section 551.074, economic development negotiations pursuant to section 551.087. Under item I, we will be entering into executive session to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property in the town center, Main Street, TCMS, zoning on East Main Street pursuant to section 551.072. The time is now 6:46, and we will convene into executive session.
For us to go across the hall, or?
Whatever's better.
Might as well run the state company. Well, I mean, there's more out there than there is here, so.
Yeah, y'all stay time is now 7:35 and council is returning from executive session. Exiting executive session, there is no action on behalf of the council, so that takes us to item K, which is adjournment. Is there anything else to add to this meeting before we adjourn? All right, hearing nothing, the time is now 7:36 and we are adjourned.
Mayor and council, I'll give you a new project list.
Yeah,
New
thank you.
updates are in
Thank
red. Before the next edition, I'll take off all the, or pad the complete